Pandora's box is about to open wide.
Welcome to Pandoras Box, starring the mayor of Winkletown himself, Nathaniel Warren, as young Bullwinkle, and having returned from the jungles of Costa Rica, Drew Jameson Ben Armstrong as Drewster and Bear, and finally Calum Waits as Obadiah Pennywhistle. Good evening to you all. We are here once again with another episode of Pandora's Box.
Woo! Woohoo!
Drew has returned from the jungles.
Hello.
He was not lost to any fauna or flora.
They were on my side.
Yeah, and luckily he's made it back in one piece. Even if he did go swimming in the river when there was a giant croc around the corner.
Oh, yeah. What? True story. True story.
Yeah, I think that's, I don't know if it's, it's sort of a good thing about you, but also could lead to your premature death. Is like, the difference was, because we're really similar people, but one big difference between me and you is, like, if I was placed in that opportunity, I would immediately be thinking, what do I know about this part of the world? And because of my interest in animals and stuff, I would think, what do I know lives in these sort of waters? And then I'd probably think, I think I'm all right. But you, because you're not because you're more of like a spontaneous thinker, and you probably in that
I just put my hand over the side and I was in the river.
It feels nice and warm.
Yeah. Get in my boxers.
And it's like, in a way, it's quite like a beautiful thing, but it's also something that could lead to your death.
I definitely trusted Pedro as well.
Did you?
So our guide Pedro.
That's another thing they make. I think I'm a bit more cynical than you. I would think, why should I trust Pedro?
Yeah. Well, like he seemed so knowledgeable about the flora and fauna. Like that was what was so impressive from the start. Like he was just telling us so much about the animals, and he could spot something like
the eyes of a hawk.
I didn't understand it. Like we'd be going, and they'd be like, "Oh my friends, look," and stuff, and like kind of stop the boat and stuff, and
he was
showing
tuned
us
in.
Got
that sixth sense.
Yeah,
he was tuned into the nature.
Even like apparently it's a bit more rare to see snakes over there. There's not as many snakes and stuff like in that part, and he just saw this snake like chilling up in this massive tree, and like we like kind of got out and.
What sort of snake was it? Do you know?
I can't remember the name of it, but what it looked, it was one of the the high predator snakes there that ate the other snakes.
Wow.
So it was, and it was.
Was it quite big?
It was big, and it was
probably
black,
not
and it was
poisonous.
yellow.
So probably not venomous. I imagine it was probably more of like a constrictor. Or
it was black and yellow. I know that, and they said that it was. He said
like
that
a boa
was
constrictor. Do you reckon?
I don't know. No,
I don't even know if they live in.
I can't remember. No, I can't. He did tell me. He told us the names of all of these animals, but I can.
Snakes of Costa Rica.
Black and yellow Costa Rican snake.
Yeah.
Snakes of Costa Rica.
How close was the crocodile?
So basically, we were going down this river, and where we were staying, in this really nice resort, was on a river. And you could see the crocs there in the mornings and stuff.
Right.
And like we went on this safari cruise down that river basically, and just in a rubber dinghy with this guy called Pedro, and it was like so beautiful because you were just really slowly just like kind of going with the current of the river and just going for 10 kilometers. And we saw so many different kinds of animals just on that 10 kilometer stretch, like two types of owls, like the biggest owl that they have in Costa Rica, like the speckled owl, I think it was called, and then like a black and white, a pair of black and white owls. Saw like turtles on the side and monkeys and all different types of birds, woodpeckers, kingfishers, which it's like
tell
really
about when
insane.
you had that face off with the howler monkey. That was funny.
Oh yeah,
Face off with the howler
Drew,
monkey.
yeah, Drew
before that, I'll finish this story with the crocodile.
Yeah.
So we were on that river basically, so I knew that there was crocs there,
Right.
but we were going down and it was just so nice and everything, and I said, it's a shame we can't go for a swim of it, and he was like, my friend, this stretch of the river is safe, it's okay. So we stopped the boat and he was like, yeah, go up down there. He's like, I stay here, come with the current fast, but just come with the current.
Right.
And then I catch you with the boat on like as you come down. So yeah, we just got out, trekked up to this other part of the corner, jumped in, and it was like lush because it was just taking us down down the river,
like a lazy river.
Yeah, and just kind of like going down with it, and got back in, and then literally turned the corner for the next stretch of the river, and there was just a massive croc just on the side there.
My
But he knew that he knew like where they were like likely to be. I mean,
In
you can't
terms
be
of
100% where they're
in terms
likely
of like
to be.
feet, how many feet do you reckon you were away from the croc?
About 100 feet.
Right. Okay.
All
so
right,
not
so
like
there is a bit
super
of
close.
distance then.
Yeah.
But close enough.
So well, imagine a stretch of river.
But it was on land, yeah.
The croc was on the side of the riverbed.
That's probably that's obviously a really good thing because crocs have
all of them that I saw were like that. They were always just chilling, like getting the sun.
Because I know that because crocs do sometimes sleep at the bottom of the of water. But
how long can they hold their breath for?
I have no idea.
That's mad that they sleep, like because they still got to breathe air.
I'll Google it in a minute. I'll Google how long that because I know because obviously there's semi-aquatic creatures but they are more designed to live obviously in the water.
Yeah,
they don't. You wouldn't find one like miles from water.
Oh no.
But they are like most animals that have for millions of years evolved to live in aquatic environments. I know that like in their heads they've got little. I don't know what the scientific way to explain it, but they've got like little senses like around their snout and stuff that basically can like pick up on movement in the water.
Oh wow!
I always imagine it like the vibrations they can pick up on,
and it's similar to sharks. Sharks have it as well. I'm not sure if it's the exact same sense, but they have something similar. Where and the reason why is obviously because if they can sense something splashing on the surface, like most animals that live in the water don't really go to the surface. They only go to the surface if they're injured or dying or in some sort of trouble. So what that says to the predators, if they pick up on the splashing, is that there's probably an easy meal. And obviously that's one of the reasons why humans often, like usually when humans do fall prey to predators in aquatic environments, it's because obviously not being aquatic animals, we want to stay at the surface.
Yeah,
and also
so they
because
think,
we can't,
easy prey.
and because we breathe air, and because we're not very eloquent swimmers, we end up like splashing a lot and blah, blah, blah. So to an aquatic predator, they equate that to probably an animal that you want to eat. You know what I mean? Because it's much easier to catch that than some super fast prey in the water or something that could maybe hurt you back. They'll see your little legs dangling there and they'll just come and take a bite.
There was this another when we were going between Uvita and Monteverde as well. We crossed this like massive bridge and it was known as Croc Bridge. And so we stopped there partly because I really needed a poo.
Did you poo into the croc?
Oh man, I got the squits so bad when I was over there.
Right into the mouth of the croc?
We were just getting there, like I gotta get out, I gotta find a toilet. So that was like the main reason for the stop. But then we're like, oh, let's go check out Croc Bridge while we're here. And we went there, and these ones they all kind of chill just under where this bridge is on the riverbank there and everything. But there was literally like 20 of them, and they were the biggest crocs I've ever seen in my life. They were like huge, and apparently those ones. Go between the sea and there, so they go out and do whatever in the sea, and then they come back and they all.
So what?
Like,
so they're
chill
salties?
There. I think so. Yeah, from what they were saying, yeah, they go.
They said they go out to the sea.
Yeah, they go out to the sea to like hunt and stuff, and then they all come back in groups there to chill. But when they go out in the sea, they go out on their own.
Right, there's two types of crocodiles in Costa Rica, or crocodilians anyway. There's the speckled caiman and the American crocodile.
I think it must
While
be
the American crocodile is a true crocodile from the Crocodilia family, the caiman is actually from the alligator family. So let's have a look.
I reckon the river water ones might have been caimans that I saw, and the ones with it.
I reckon that's probably right.
And with the ones it like that were in that kind of bit of the river, I think they were salties, but they were like they would come to kind of bass.
Not technically salties,
or like you know.
Yes, they can go into salt water.
Yeah,
because obviously salt water crocodiles are a specific genus.
But, okay.
But they do look like they have some. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at some pictures here about like this Costa Rican crocs. Like, can you have a look at this on your? Oh no, I didn't know.
Oh yeah, I can. Yeah. No,
look at this.
Oh man, yeah, they were literally that big. They were 100% that big. I got some this like croc. See that one where they're all together.
It says the very brave boat tour guy. Is that Pedro?
Yeah. But literally, like it was so cool. I got some video of this as well, which I'll bring in. And I took some really cool video of the ones that were by the kind of.
Mate,
like,
I'd love to see that.
Yeah. I'm gonna put a video together.
Mate,
with all the different
upload
animals.
it on on this on Pandoras Box.
I will do.
That'd be cool.
But
look at that 17 foot.
Yeah, they were huge.
That's a big boy in it. 17 foot is very long.
Yeah, put in like Croc Bridge.
That is a dinosaur.
Croc Bridge, Costa Rica, and see if it comes up because you'll see the exact race.
Oh. Croc Bridge. Let's have a look, folks. Yeah, so if you're listening on the radio and you're like, why the hell are these guys?
That's the spot.
So if you watch us,
Crocodile Bridge, yeah. See them all there. Look what they all look like. Just kind of like chilling. Like
you can see them a couple under there. And
yeah, and you can just look all like that. And there was just loads of them. It was so
crocodile
cool.
seen from Crocodile Bridge over River Tacoles.
Yeah,
Costa
that
Rica.
was it. That was the place we stopped. But yeah, it was madness just seeing so many down there. And that was one of the crazy things about being in Costa Rica. It's like I'm used to like going out on these walks in nature and everything in the UK, and it's like lush. We love it, but it seems to be like you see some birds and things like that, but you're really lucky when you see like proper wildlife in the UK, like kind
almost
of
like when you see like a fox or a badger, or an owl. It's almost like a nice event.
Yeah, but over in Costa Rica, I've never seen so much wildlife. Just by going out and going on these like river walks or into the jungle and stuff. That's just so like I've never seen that kind of animal for like toucans and these crazy like birds and stuff and. Oh yeah, and the howler monkeys, they were cool, man. They have like an insane loud howl, and yeah, they yeah, and literally like they there's the two main types of monkey. There's the howler monkeys, and then there's those little black ones with like the white faces.
Oh, like Ace Ventura has.
Yeah.
What's it called? I'm gonna put Spike.
Which they're actually really aggressive. So yeah, they're the most aggressive like monkey that's in Costa Rica.
Whoa.
The howler monkeys are like a bit. They're bigger than those, and they look more like they look like bigger monkeys. But they're less violent because they don't actually get into physical encounters with other monkey like clans and
Capuchin
stuff as
monkey.
much.
That's what the other ones. Capuchin monkeys.
Because their first form of like challenge with each other is their howl, and they have this insanely the alpha in whichever pack has like an insanely like loud like monkey howl, and and literally like they as soon as they kind of come across another pack or something, they start with that, and then if one of them is like louder than the other, then then that pack just goes, and they don't actually get into physical fight. But when they're really similar to each other, that's when they physically fight. Right. And like it's crazy as well. Like it doesn't rain as much over there. So when not in rainy season, so like, and we weren't in rainy season, we were in the dry season, but the animals can tell when the rain's coming. So when we were in this like jungle lodge at the start and stuff, and it was like this, and we hadn't had any rain there for the whole week. And then this one night, like the howler monkeys just started going crazy, and it sounded like it was just outside like our like place where we were as well. And it was real funny because it was obviously like quite close to our chalet. And I was in the nud, just kind of chilling there.
Right.
And like I opened the window, and I was just like, "Oh, I'm gonna start like challenging this howler monkey by doing it back." Oh, he started going mental. I was going, ooh, 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 and like doing the same thing of like whatever mimicking sounds he was. I was just mimicking like how many he was doing and stuff like that. He was
triggered.
Oh god, he started going crazy. But then about an hour later, like stopped doing it and stuff. Like the rains just like came down so hard, and And yeah, like Pedro, when we were talking to him about it after, said like, yeah, they can kind of tell, they can feel it in the air, like almost like electricity in the air when there's a storm coming and stuff. And they become like way more active then as well, and just start making loads of noises, and the birds and everything, you know.
It's mad how like really animals do know when it's going to rain. Like they even say that they like cows know when it's going to rain. That's why they sit down. Yeah, they sit down so that the patch of grass that they're sitting on will stay dry.
And that's it. It's like this sixth sense and this connection with nature, like and the same with like natural disasters and things. Like if something's going to happen, like an earthquake, all of the birds go crazy and start flying away.
I wonder if like zoologists and biologists and that like know how animals.
Yeah, like it is. It's just one of those things, isn't it? It's
because there's things that we can, as humans, like look to that will help us tell if it's going to rain. Like obviously,
dark cloud,
but we can't just feel it.
And I know that
maybe some people can if they're really tapped in.
I know that like if you live near hills or mountains, if you can't see the hills or the mountains from where you live, it's a good indication it's going to rain. You know, it's really weird. It's like, and I know that. I remember my grandmother telling me when I moved to Stegursey, because you could see the Quantock Hills like really clearly from my back garden, that her father told her that if you can't see the hills, it means it's going to rain soon. And it's true, man. It's weird. So now it's like, I'm like, the knowledge has been passed on to me. So now I want to come, and I always like, make a point of saying it. If I can't see them, I was like, It's going to rain.
Now you've passed it on to all of us.
But do you know what I mean? Like, do you reckon the animals are doing? Do you reckon it's like problem solving, or do you reckon it's more like a sixth sense?
I think
like,
you can kind of feel like the humidity before a storm comes. I don't know if I remember thinking this whenever we used to go out and play cricket like every single day in summer, and you'd get these weird, just random storms that would come. But we'd always know it was going to come because you would feel this like humidity in the air, and obviously the clouds and everything as well. But I feel like you could kind of tell what was going on in the air a little bit. But I reckon for the animals, it must just be heightened.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
It's mad as well. Like, I even think about it. Another thing that really interested me when we were like in the hotel room at the very end of the trip. There was like it was so cool because there were so many animals in the complex we were in, because I think they felt safe from predators and stuff, because they knew humans were there, but there wasn't
a predator
threat.
kicks off, someone's probably going to come with a gun.
I mean, there was like sloths there. There was loads of different animals just chilling in the trees, like just around there, and I think they felt a bit safe. But also the people that worked there like protected the animals, as in like not with rifles, but if anything was out, like you couldn't touch anything, or there was like anteaters,
Anteaters.
not anteaters, but actual ants,
Right.
like ant nests, massive ant nests, and these huge lines of like ant trails that would just like cut through the complex, and none of the people that worked there would touch them and stuff. But this was so interesting to watch. Like, and just outside our hotel room, there was like one of these ant trails, and the nest was like down there a little bit, but they were non-stop 24/7. Literally, they were called cutter ants, and they would go. There was this other tree that was somewhere else on the complex. I actually followed the trail and thought, where are these ants going, and what do they keep bringing back? Because all the ones going that way had nothing. All the ones coming back that way had these yellow these yellow like petals that they were carrying that were like bigger than them, and I thought it was like so cool. And then, so I followed them, and there was just this one tree, and then they were going up the tree, and this tree had flowered. And they were going up, cutting all the petals off the flowers, and then bringing them back to the ant nest, and obviously doing whatever they were doing there with them. But it was like so interesting to see. And I thought, how do these ants know, like where the ant's nest is, and kind of like they were so that you could see that they were working together like so well as this like hive mind, and it's almost like they're connected in this way that they know where home is. You know what I mean? This like how tiny they are and how huge that must be, that whole complex to them. But just these, following these trails, and
it's mad.
It's like how did they? It blew my mind to think how tiny their brains must be and everything. Like, how do they know? Kind of like are so connected to each other.
Don't they have like actual scouts? So like certain ants will be sent out on missions to go and if they find like the mother load of,
they can secrete hormones like pheromones. Not pheromones. I don't know the correct way to describe it scientifically, but they can secrete something. I think which basically says like come here.
Yeah,
I know that like bees and that can do that as well.
Yeah,
and wasps and stuff. That's why they say in it like be careful, because like with wasps and stuff, if you like kill one, often as they're sort of dying, they all secrete a pheromone that basically says to all of their other wasp buddies, basically like, come here,
avenge me.
And then like so next there's just like loads of wasps attacking you. That's how like people sometimes, I would say it's fairly rare, but sometimes like every year in summertime you'll get like a cup, like maybe like less than a handful of people that will like die from like wasps or bee stings, and that's usually it's because of something like that,
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Like when you go in like down a rabbit hole with like YouTube videos and that as well, like something came up the other day, and it was this guy, and he was a really like quaint like English guy that during lockdown like grew his own vegetables and that, and it was just this story of how many vegetables he got and stuff, and like that was interesting. But then he did another one about beekeeping, so he started keeping these like beehives, and like just from start to finish, like going on a community and getting a secondhand beehive off someone that he could use, and then and then getting some bees from another community member and like doing it. But it was so interesting to watch how like the hive worked and stuff, and like I just had no idea about like bees before, but like all of a sudden I'd watched like 2 hours worth of this. Like,
suddenly you were like the bee master. I'm a bee expert.
And just like how crazy it seemed like. It's not just putting something in a box and then like letting them do a thing. It's kind of like that, but like
you have to find the queen.
Yeah, and
once you find the queen,
they put the dot on the queen. They find the queen.
Right, yeah, I've seen that.
And they put this little thing over, and they put an ink dot.
So it's easy to find her in future.
But then when the hive starts getting too big, he was checking it, and then they make these like on like the honey the combs, like the basically like the little rooms that they have within the hive. Some they store food in, some they have for like sleeping in.
Don't they even have like the hospitals, like it'll be hospitals?
Yeah, I don't know. And one of them was like, you
crazy.
could tell if there was one that was bigger, that was one to create a new queen.
That was one, a big bull.
Because
give pleasure to the
they
mama.
were getting too big because they were getting too big for the hive.
Right.
So they needed to create a new queen so that they can so that queen can stay in that hive, and then the current queen of that hive
can
will
expand.
go somewhere else and they'll swarm to another place and create a new hive. And
I guess that's how like. Because I think there must have
how
been,
they
like,
multiply and
you know, because obviously when bees evolved, I guess, you know, because I guess that seems pretty natural if you think about it.
Yeah, but it's mad
There
that
can't
there's
just be one massive hive in the world.
No, and that's it. But
Has
it's
to.
just mad, like how it happens. And there's one queen, and then there's like all the worker ants, and then there's like not the like the worker ones, and then there's the male ones that she mates with to get the.
Do you know what that's just made me think of? And it's like this is a really good analogy for that. One thing I've been thinking more in the last couple of years. You know when there's like the whole worry with like that you call it like decentralized governing or decentralized governments and stuff like that, and the whole idea behind it is like the further away your governing body is from actually like where you live, probably the more the quality of your life is going to go downhill. And I saw actually recently, I don't know if you guys have heard that. You technically live in Wiltshire at the moment, do you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you wouldn't have got the letter.
Just on the border.
But for anybody in Somerset, I got a letter the other day basically saying at the moment there's 4, I believe, districts of Somerset. So there's 4 Somerset councils. There's like West Somerset, Sedgemoor, Mendips, and whatever. There might be 5 actually. I don't know. There's probably like South and then I think North. I don't know. But I've only ever lived within the Sedgemoor and the West Somerset districts. But they're basically they're making one. They're cancelling all of that, and they're just having one big Somerset council. But I straight away was like, oh man, I'm not particularly. I want to be open minded and obviously hopeful, but I think on the whole, it's probably not a good sign. And the reason for that is just like the same reason why the bees split up is because once you get past a certain number, there's only so much that a governing body can govern. Once you get too much, it basically becomes hard to govern. And then what you really want is to then sort of then divide that up.
More autonomous, like smaller communities. That
Let's put it this way, right? If you were put in charge of Crockerton today, right, you would have a lot of incentive to make sure that Crockerton was a really good place.
Yeah.
If you were put in charge of...
If you've never been there...
If you were put in charge of a village or a town that was 100 miles away from you...
What connection do you have to that? How do you know it? How are you integrated into that community?
And if you don't, and even if you had the best intentions, the fact of the matter is probably the quality of the lifestyle of that place is probably going to go downhill because you're not there. You don't really know what the issues are. So how can you address the issues?
It's more like just a centralized kind of like whatever I say goes kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think that's why almost like in the way, I think that's quite a good like system in the States. I mean, they have to have it because of the fact that
how big it is.
because of some of the fact that some of the US states are like literally bigger than England. But obviously, yeah, they are the country is the United States of America, but they have individual states with individual laws, and some people might like some states' laws more than others. But then it's like, you know, if you like a certain state's laws, more
move to that state.
Yeah,
and in America, you can. You're free to roam any of them if you've got that citizenship.
But then you have like overall things, but then you have like federal law, which like, sort of overrides individual state laws, don't you, and things like that. So like that's good. But yeah, it's just quite interesting because you were obviously saying about that, and then I was just thinking because it was only a couple of days ago they got a letter.
So it's going from 4 beehives to 1 beehive.
Yeah, and I think
5 beehives to 1 beehive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then it's like it's what it's doing is it's creating room for error.
Yeah.
And obviously what happened, what my concern is obviously is not only do I live in Somerset, but I also obviously pay a lot of council tax.
Yeah.
Like I got it was the letter I got about them saying they were going to unify the different districts.
And we're also going to put your council tax up.
Yeah, so it said it was putting my council tax up, and also it was my bill for my last council tax. And it's hard not to laugh at it in a way. But it basically says what your money's been used for. Yeah. And you think, like, you can't help but look at it, really. And I said, I don't want to be, like, overly cynical, but you look at it and you end up thinking, like, how much is that benefiting me, really?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, how much is that? And it's like, some of it's going to, like, Stegursey Parish Council. And, like, do you know what I mean? And it's like, obviously some of it's, like, really worthwhile. Like, some of it goes to, like, the fire brigade and stuff. And let's face it, like, they need to be paid so that they can help people in fires and stuff. But a lot of it, you just do think, like, for what you're paying as an individual, and think about how much that must be from like everybody in your county, that's so much money.
Yeah.
And you think, what are you really getting for that?
And like, I don't know how like political stuff works as much, but as an average person, like how much do you feel involved with the decisions that are made on where that money is being sent? And for me, I've never felt like that. I've never felt any kind of like power or like like thing over like what so it's almost that goes, and then you're just whatever you spend it on, like you've made that decision about it, and that doesn't feel right. But it seems like in so many things at the moment that thing of like the bigger organization almost eating up the smaller ones, like it's happening like so much. Like there's been these like bank collapses that have happened like recently in like the US
that
and
big
everything.
bank in the US,
yeah,
Silicon
like,
Valley,
quite a few of them.
Yeah.
There's like different ones, and like I heard some like senator talking about it, and he was asking one of the people on like the Federal Reserve team or something, like because they said they were going to bail this bank out. But they wouldn't do it with every bank. It was only like certain big banks that they actually would always do that to. And what the senator was saying is like, okay, well, that's basically incentivizing anyone that's got money in smaller banks or smaller businesses like banks and stuff to take their money out of that bank and put it in one of the big ones because they know that that's going to be insured. That's basically like, you're going to eat up, the bigger banks are going to eat up all the smaller ones. And it's just like a similar thing of like, the 5 councils turning into one, like, 5 banks turning into one, like that's got more centralized control.
And I think you can see the downhill in the quality of life for people in general with things like this. Because even say, let's take something super simple, like say like a bakery, like where you get your bread and your milk and your meat from. So what it would have been back in the day is you would like every village would have had like a butcher's and a baker's,
a yogurt
good
maker.
That's a little weird jingle that me and Drew made once. But every village would have a butcher's and a baker's, etc. And so you would know every day, this is where I'm going to get my bread. The baker would know you on a personal level. So it would say, Mr. Armstrong likes this type of loaf, and he will probably want every day pretty much he'll get like a pint of milk of semi-skim. So
fresh from the cow's teat.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that sort of personal connection, and if something goes wrong, it's very easy to rectify that because you can walk 2 minutes to that shop or knock on that person's house, because it would be local community, and you can say like, and they would say, oh, this is why it didn't happen today. I'm really sorry. It will be rectified. Whatever.
Accountability.
But now, the further you get away from that, what happens nowadays is, say you have an issue with anything, whether it's like where you get your food from, your internet provider, your Sky Television, whatever, your phone provider. You end up ringing someone up. Man, you're on the phone for ages. Usually some robot speaks to you, and it's like you have to put in some code or something. And then if you don't have your code out, it just won't let you through. Yeah. So it's a battle sometimes to even speak to someone personally. Sometimes you can be on the phone on hold for God knows how long. It's self-defeating. It's tedious. You sort of end up feeling robbed as somebody that's paying money for this service.
Usually getting charged for the phone call as well.
Exactly. Do you know what I mean? There's so many things like that. So yet again, these are all just examples of why anything that's decentralized tends not to be very good.
Yeah,
definitely in the way of like because. Like decentralized in like
government and things like into anything that involves like quality of life in terms of, as I said, things like shops
in the way of like how far it is away from it, because they are more centralized, but in the way of like how they run. Yes. Do you know what I mean? Centralized at the top, as in like one central power can make do you know what I mean? But like I kind of look at it in that because more in like the crypto
it depends obviously what you're talking about. Obviously, I'm going to say like in like a region, if you had like a centralized for that region, and that would mean that you had like a governing body in the center of that region. That's cool. That would be overlooking you. That would be looking after those. Yeah,
because because in the crypto thing, I think decentralized is so much better because that basically what that means is there's not a centralized power or entity that can be in control of anything. It's actually run by the entity.
I think obviously with most things in life, things aren't black and white, and it depends on the specifics of what subject you're talking about. What is right to do in that situation. With that, even though it's sort of branching ever so slightly, one thing that I sort of made me just think of that then when you were saying that is I was watching a really interesting podcast the other day, or listening probably is more accurate. Lex Friedman's podcast, so I'm a real big fan of. I know I've talked about him to you guys a little bit before, and he had that Shannon or Sharon Curry. I think it's Shannon Curry on, his podcast, and she was the lady who was the psychologist for the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial.
Right.
That basically, basically did a psychological evaluation of Amber Heard, and then basically just stood up in court and said what the findings of her psychological evaluation. And you could see, and she was had massive publicity during that trial, didn't she? Because she basically was just a don. She just did her job fantastically, and she was like, when the Amber Heard's defense was sort of like trying to whatever she said, on this paper, she was so on it. She knew her job so well, and she knew the ins and outs. She was just like, well, no, because blah 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 blah, and then they'd be just like, and then they try and think of something else to sort of put Chinkanarama. She'd just be like, no, blah blah blah, So she became like a bit of a superstar in that case. But she was talking about obviously what she often does as part of her job is like relationship counselling. And she was talking about how obviously there's no like universal rights and wrongs for like relationships in general. It really depends on the individual relationship, what the people are like. She said, for example, she's worked with people that are in polygamous relationships, monogamous relationships. She said she's worked with relationships where there's almost like an unwritten rule that they can even like have like affairs as long as it's not like talked about really, and how like that might be.
It's cool that she specialises in so many different ones, because normally you would hear of like a specialist in polygamy or something.
Well, I
think
think I think for us as laymen, we would probably think that's the case. Yeah, but
that's so cool. Like actually, as a whole.
Yeah, man. But specifically, what I was thinking of when you were going on about how obviously in some ways decentralization can be good, in other ways it can be bad. She was talking about, and this is really really interesting. I thought it was really interesting for me to sit and think about myself. And she was saying like one thing that she sometimes asks people, it's an interesting thing to ask somebody psychologically, for their own growth as an individual, as well as to see what their feedback is what do you think is more important, loyalty or truth? And that's a really, 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 when you put it like that, it's actually very, very hard.
Yeah,
because I think
they're both massively important.
Yeah. You think of them usually as being in the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
But realise, if you think about it, and it's very easy to see why they conflict massively. And she was going on about how she has seen people psychologically and emotionally crushed in the past. Like crushed because somebody who thought that they were doing the right thing has, say, told their best friend that person's partner was been cheating on them for like 5 years.
Yeah.
And they think that they are doing the right thing because in that situation they think, this person's my friend, I need to tell them the truth. And then they would tell that person, and then she was saying, as a psychologist, she thinks it would have been better for them not to know, because what happens then is that person sometimes can't even work. They then have issues, like massive issues with trust, maybe then for the rest of their life. They're like emotionally damaged. And she said, and obviously as a psychologist, she said from like evaluating people, even like years and years after the event, she said that they will show all the same markers of PTSD as like somebody that's suffered like horrendous physical events like war and stuff.
So do you think like loyalty could be it's not like black and white, so it's almost being more loyal to the friends because you're looking at like if you got it right and you didn't tell them because of the massive like effect that it had on their life and everything, it's almost like more loyal as a friend like not to tell them because you're looking out, you understand that it would like mess them up so much, and they would probably blame you as well. Like it reminds me of something like Meg told me about like one of her friends that she's only just speaking to now after years, because she basically did that. She told her friend about this guy that was like cheating on her or whatever, and the friend like blamed her or like, you know, had this horrible thing like what you're describing of just like being completely like crushed and stuff. But then that also like affected their relationship, and rather than it being like, oh, thanks for telling me that, it's like, I don't ever want to speak to you. Like how you've done. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, whoa. Like,
well, I think me and you have even like been in similar situations ourselves, like where we've known each other for so long. Like we've been friends obviously since we were like 11 years old. When you're like 33, well, you're going to be 33 in a few months.
Oh God, thanks for reminding me.
Sorry, mate, I'll always be older than you. It's like, do you know what I mean? Like we've known each other from literally like early puberty or before puberty to like
Pre-pubert.
to like fully pre-puberts right through to like modern day. Like we've obviously done a lot post-puberts. We've done a lot of evolving and growing, like physically, emotionally, in every way. So we've been through a lot together as friends. But I think there's even been situations in the past. And what Shannon Curry was saying, I think it's Shannon, not Sharon. She was like saying that it obviously it takes a real degree of like maturity to know what's a best for each situation. And I can think of situations in the past between me and you where I've thought like the best thing to do maybe was to like be truthful with you of something, say with maybe like a girl you're with or something, but almost like confront you with it in like almost like a really like almost like in like a way that I wouldn't have like necessarily seen it that way, but to you must have been like a really like explosive, almost maybe confrontational way. And then I definitely, rather than you
it having the intended effect.
Yeah, you would actually more like retreat from me. And it wouldn't actually really affect your relationship with who that was.
Yeah.
And then as a counter result, maybe then I would try and do something like more radical to try and make you see, and then it would just and then it would just make it even worse. Do you know what I mean?
It is, it's like knowing,
and it causes like
it?
resentment and everything.
Yeah,
you know?
man. It's weird, isn't it? And it's like and it is because for me, like truth is like the utmost, like if I don't know. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, truth is like the utmost thing.
Do you think it would be worse if you found out yourself? So let's go back to the example of like being cheated on. I feel like you would rather have your friend come and tell you than find out yourself and also find out that your friend already knew but didn't tell you.
I definitely think that is the case. Yeah, I definitely think that's true.
But then I guess the other argument is the hope is that you just don't find out at all.
I think like I can think of like certain friends I know would tell me and other friends I know for a fact wouldn't. And I don't necessarily think that one friend is like better than the other, but I do find it comforting to think that I have some friends that I think would hopefully tell me the truth.
I think that's like a key thing as well. It's like what you would want from your friend.
Yeah, and
do you know
also
what I mean?
what
And
type
if
of
you
person
know
you
that,
are.
yeah, like so like with something like that, you would say is someone more avoidant, or is someone more like able to deal with like things like that come, you know? So if something like that happened, I know you would want to know.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
That's what I mean by the type of person.
Yeah,
another person might have take the everything was fine. Like the ignorance is bliss.
Exactly.
Why did you have to tell me this? I was happy, man.
And that's more avoidant.
And you ruined it.
Yeah, that's more like the avoidant style.
Yeah.
And then like the more like you know,
I feel like I could cope with it.
Like,
I would rather like
the
say
truth.
you told me the truth, and
I think I would be.
I feel like I could
be told.
Yeah, like I could cope with the emotional fallout from that. What I would feel would be more maybe damaging to me in the long run is that I would end up with just such severe trust issues, because I'd feel like, well, what? So like almost like loads of my friends knew. And I didn't know. And I thought all these people had my back. You know? But it's weird, as I said, but that's me. Like there are people completely different to me. There is somebody else that might think that, might want that ignorance is bliss approach. And that was quite interesting. And she was saying that actually in her research, and she was saying that there are people that are very much like that. There are people that would literally and it was really interesting as well. She was saying that she's had like sessions as well with partners who have cheated on their partners, and only they know about it, and there's no way that their partner could ever find out, and they've been really emotionally torn, and they've like been speaking to her during the sessions, and essentially like obviously she doesn't really give black and white answers as like as a part of her profession, but they've almost been like seeking an answer of what they should do. So like, should I tell my partner or not? And she said she can't really give black and white answers, but she was saying her as a person, not as like a profession, her as a person, she was saying that oftentimes she actually doesn't think that's a good idea. Because she was saying that if it's 100% that
it's not
that person can't find out, and nobody else knows, so there's no way that could almost be damaging in that way, that you know, like your spouse would never feel like they could not longer trust their friends or their family or whatever like that. So if you know you made a mistake and you know you're never going to do it again, and you've personally, as a person, you've grown from that experience, and you know how much you value your partner, then it could only do more harm to actually tell them. And I thought that was really interesting, because my natural inclination before I heard that
was like,
from such an expert was that I thought that would be really wrong. But I could see how, you know, she was basically, a lot of what she kept going back to was like, you know, maturity. Like, and she was basically saying it was like, it takes a very mature and learned mind to actually understand what's appropriate, not for like every individual situation, for every individual person, for every individual relationship. And that can be that can really change. And I think with like the loyalty versus truth thing as well. And this is one thing I was thinking, which is really hard. So say like your loyalty to your friends. So say on the other hand, say it wasn't your partner. So say it wasn't your mate that was say being cheated on. Imagine if it was your friend that was doing the cheating, was being adulterous. In that situation, if you're somebody that's like a diehard for truth, but also loyalty is important to you, well then suddenly you're clearly going to be conflicted. But you might, usually if it's like a close friend, you'll probably have spent a certain amount of time around that person's partner. If you get on with them, then you might on a personal level feel a bit weird about what's going on. Depending on how it's sort of played out. Obviously, I think, systematic and conscious cheating and affairs is obviously going to be a little bit different than like a silly drunken one-night stand, for example. But like in that situation, how do you feel? Like, you're loyal to your friend. Now, if somebody asked you outright, like, is your friend, if say like if your friend's missus best mate came to you and said, is Charlie cheating on Joanne? In that situation, if truth is really important to you, but loyalty is as well, you're faced with a hard situation. Because you either lie, and then you have to face the personal consequences of that, because probably important to you not to be a liar. But then if you tell the truth, you could be unloyal,
disloyal,
to your friend. So that's a hard situation, isn't it? Like, how do you navigate that situation?
It's so complicated, isn't it?
It's very interesting,
and every situation is completely different and completely unique and stuff. Like, intuitively, I'm like, oh, like maybe hopefully it's not like dismissing it or something of like, the severity of it. But I think in my head, like, if you've got like the best intention for like everyone, then you will know what to do in the moment. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, and
that's
different.
it. And it's like, so when you were saying that, I was thinking what I would probably do is like not say anything, speak to my friend. But then if I was directly asked by that person, I would find it very hard not to tell the truth. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when like that
to be confronted in that way.
It's a lot easier to avoid the truth than it is to lie.
Exactly. And it is like so I'd probably be like, it's none of my business, or it's going to be not as my business as I can make it. But then if I'm directly asked by someone, and then it's like, or I'd be like, you need to seriously talk to that person that you're asking me about.
It's so funny, because I can almost like picture that situation, almost the awkwardness of like, I can't really say anything, but I think you really need to have a chat with that person.
That would be my thing, but it'd be so hard, wouldn't it? Because you want to tell the truth.
You would feel super on the spot as well, wouldn't you? Because it's very, even for somebody that maybe is like emotionally mature, like used to dealing with, isn't like at all socially anxious, whatever, and quite a fast thinker, I think regardless of who you are, you would feel super on the spot in that situation, and your mind would be racing. It'd be hard to come up with something that would be a decent response. Because as I said, when you're dealing with such like strong conflicting emotions, it's like, don't want to betray my mate. I don't want to be complicit in this freaking scandal. Like it's like hard to in like the 0.2 seconds you need to respond, because let's face it, the other person's there looking at you waiting for a response. The longer you take to answer, the more you start smelling fishy.
The more you're giving it away anyway.
Just give me a minute. Well, I'll tell you what.
It's so interesting crazy. Because they are two qualities that I feel like everyone wants to have, aren't they?
Yeah,
truth
they're
and loyalty.
Two massively important qualities, like in being a good person, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's just mad as well, like with relationships and stuff, and people's relationships, and like in couples and all that. It's like there's so many different types and kinds and everything like that. Like there's no cut and dry answer with anything. And like two people's relationship is always completely unique and like individual and everything. And it's like,
it's one of the things that makes like not just human interaction, but just the world fascinating, isn't it?
I
think as human beings, like the same way. I mean, I've talked a little bit before, haven't we, on the pod about how it's like people want to compartmentalize everything because it's very easy for our brains then to understand things. So it's like, not only do we try and put people into groups or teams, but we even sometimes subconsciously do it to ourselves. So, we've talked about in the past, like back in the day, you would have like mods and rockers. You see, a really good example would be like football teams. You have Liverpool fans, Manchester United fans, Man City fans, and they are so weirdly tribal. But if you think about it, really, it's like rubbish. It's like, mate, we're all human beings, and like, and then with that whole sort of mods versus rockers thing that you saw back in the day, it's like, well, what about the people that just liked both types of music? Do you know what I mean? Because I think that, that's like one of those things. But it's what I'm sort of getting down to is it's like things aren't cut and dry.
No,
there's not like a formula. Follow this formula and everything will be all right. It really does depend on the individual relationship, on the individual circumstance, everything. But as I said, it's one of the things that makes life fascinating, isn't it? Like navigating the waters of life and relations.
And so interesting as well from the sidelines, because with certain things that have been going on recently in like our friend group and stuff as well. It's like I've almost like been sitting on the sidelines with popcorn, not getting involved too much, but really enjoying the and it's just like that we got this natural tendency to just love the EastEnders like drama of life,
Well, it's weird, isn't it? It's like, it is, well, yeah. I don't want to say
You're not my mother, I am!
man.
Cat Slater.
Cat Slater. Or like one of those epic, like, Pat Butcher versus Peggy Mitchell battles from back in the day. Slapping each other after hours,
You slag!
Calling each other female dogs and cows and stuff, Yeah, you gotta love it, haven't you? But it is interesting, isn't it? I mean, I think as part of human nature, I think when anything sort of slightly scandalous is going on, it does pique our interest, especially if you're emotionally. I think
everyone wants to look at a car crash.
I think there's I think there's levels, isn't there? I'm not interested if like in terms of like people I don't know. Look, I care less, to be honest. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, but I think as soon as you're emotionally invested in somebody, invested, baby. And so as soon as you're emotionally invested in somebody, it's somebody that you know
it becomes
and care
so
about.
Interesting.
Then and obviously I think as well, because you're looking out for their best interest.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure, obviously, you want what's best for that person. If you've known someone for a long time and you think they're a decent human being and that you consider them a friend or whatever, you obviously want what's best for them. And if you know that they're in a delicate and tricky situation, then you're like, I don't really know how this is going to go. And so as a result, it does become something to keep your eye on and something to watch.
And that's it. And like how you interact with that friend as well, there's not always a cut and dry answer for everything is this way.
We were talking about this the other day, weren't we?
Yeah, and like you were saying, like how everyone is individual and different. Like sometimes what you think should be best because of what you think about something, it shows you how a different approach like might be better for that person because they're a certain way. Do you know what I mean? And it is. And then you're learning something as well. And it's just everyone's like learning something about each other and the way you work in relationships and stuff, But it's never cut and dry,
I was thinking one thing I thought was really interesting as well. So we were talking about a little bit the other day. We were saying about how like it's interesting for you to like think almost like as well and sort of realize maybe in the moment what your friends or your friend needs specifically from you, and that could be completely different than what they would need from like a different person. Yeah, like say like,
and that's okay.
Yeah, so like one of our friends, like it's interesting like the way that they would deal with their situation and unwind with Drew is completely different than me. Like so, like with me, it would be a lot more like you could tell. It was more like blowing off steam, separating yourself from the situation, just having a general like good time and a laugh. And I was like saying to Drew, if that's what our friend needs from me, then I'm just really glad to be able to provide that. Yeah. You don't always, whereas you are almost like seems to be like for whatever reason, a friend almost seems to see you as more like a counsellor role. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, totally. And I think
you can see why both would be really beneficial.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important to have like different, like a network of a friendship group. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Because everyone can give you different stuff.
Exactly, and like sometimes,
as long as it's positive, it's going to help you.
Sometimes I think you can get caught up in like, or I have like. Of thinking like, what's right and what's wrong, and like, why is it like this and that? But it's just great to have. That's
getting back to our point now, isn't it? That's exactly what we were saying about almost like mods versus rockers, how we like to have set patterns.
Yeah,
it's like you thinking
getting
like,
out of that mindset.
Yeah, it's like it's more a matter of what's appropriate for the situation and things like that, isn't it? Really, it's really interesting, man. Really interesting.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think the main thing is as well, it's good to have different people that you can go to for like different things. As long as it's all positive,
Yes.
and not negative, then you're onto
And that's
a winner.
like the intention
Yeah.
thing when I was saying, as long as
Yeah.
you've got the people's best interests. Like, if
Yeah,
you're looking at
yeah.
that with the relationship and with your friendships and stuff, then hopefully, like, all
'cause
those
you
will
can't
be,
do
like,
wrong.
positive.
Because like friend, like being like someone's friend could be like so many different things. It could be just being silly with each other. It could listening to someone's innermost freaking emotional struggles and then helping them navigate that from a fresh perspective. It could be just sharing a mutually enjoyable experience with that person, like going to like a gig or go into a cool place or whatever. It can be so many different things.
Yeah, man. Variety is the spice of life.
Exactly.
That is interesting. We're gonna have to go for like a little break in a second.
Ooh,
but
potty break.
We've got like a minute left, so in that time, I'll just tell you guys something pretty interesting that we can wrap up quickly that I found out the other day. Did you know that in some parts of Asia, they used to train elephants as like a form of execution? And because elephants are smart, they would train the elephants really well at it. Not just execution, but torture as well. So, and apparently it was as recent. They only stopped it in some parts of Asia as like recently as like the 19th century. So like late 1800s. So like it's not really that long ago. Like
Is that when they used to like step on people?
Yeah, so they would train elephants to like they would train elephants to like step on people, but almost like gently, and then like slowly apply pressure, so it would like slowly crush you. Also, sometimes it was like brutal, so they would also train elephants. Sometimes they would literally put your head on a block, similar to like when somebody would be executed with like an axe, say, beheading in Europe. But then they would just get the elephant to just stamp on the person's head. And it's like there's like drawings of like from like actually executions where somebody was like drawing the actual an actual depiction of what was happening live. And yeah, just savage, just elephants just smushed. It's like it would be like you stepping on a cherry tomato, mate. And also
horrible.
not just that, but like specific terms of torture, like they like taught elephants to like wrap their trunks around people's arms and then just rip their arms off and stuff like that. And you can even see like old black and white photos of people from the early 20th century, like old Asians and stuff where they've just like got
their
like
arm
no
ripped
arms,
off.
where they've just got no arms. Yeah, actual photographs. But isn't that nuts?
Madness.
Imagine the like boom of the elephant walking towards you, and you know it's just about to stand.
You know
on
that's the torture elephant. Oh, brutal. Anyway, guys, we're going to listen to a track now. This is Harvest by Opeth for everyone that's listening on the radio. We'll be back soon with more Pandora's Box Mayhem. Welcome back, guys. For those listening on the radio, that was Wolf Moon by Type O Negative. Before that, we had Harvest by Opeth. Oh, we love it. Getting a little bit gothic up in the studio. But yeah, while we were listening to those tracks, I was just talking about how my eyes were all bloodshot because I got pink eye. And I think I got like conjunctivitis recently. My missus and my poor little Bab both had strep.
Bless.
So it was like Evie got ill. Let me think ago, over a fortnight ago, and was like really ill for like a week. We had to end up having to take her for A&E one night for that as well, which sucks because
Damn.
Did her temperature go up like really high?
Yeah, but then plummeted like dangerously low.
Whoa.
So that's why we took her in, because it was like, man, that's like
Don't want to
it
mess
was
around
like,
with that. Yeah.
yeah, it was like weird. Do you know what I mean? It was like 1 minute it was like up in like the 40s, which is like really dangerous for like little kids. And then suddenly plummeted really low. So we were like,
Isn't it harder for babies? I don't know what age it is till
regulate
to
the body
regulate the temperature.
Yeah, it is. I think she's past that stage now.
Yeah, but it's-
I'm no pediatrician, but I think she is past that stage now. But obviously with kids, apparently fluctuations in body temperature do tend to be a little bit more worrisome than with adults. I don't know the exact reasons for that. I don't know if it's just because they are kids and obviously you just cherish the young lives more, or if it is actually like physically more dangerous. I'm not 100% sure. But so poor little Babbins, she was really ill and she was on antibiotics, and then so she got ill on like the Tuesday, and then she literally took about a week to recover, and then the direct Tuesday afterwards, Em started getting really ill, and then she was basically out of commission last week. She also got put on antibiotics, so she didn't get better until Sunday, and really only started, I would say, getting really better until Monday. But it's really weird. Like I was like, I'm absolutely fine. Feel fine. I've been working out as normal, doing everything as normal. I've had like a throat infection and conjunctivitis as well as the strep, because it's just common things that you get as a side effect of the strep, as well as like common flu-like symptoms like full body aches, just feeling generally rubbish. But as you probably know, Bullwinkle, because you said that you had it around Christmas time.
Yeah. I had it just before Christmas. I literally recovered.
Savage.
I could eat for the first day.
I remember you being really ill, because I remember
Day.
asking you, like, are you better for Christmas sort of thing? Because obviously, you don't want someone to be ill.
No. On baby Jesus' birthday.
Yeah, exactly. The baby Jesus came and blessed you and took away your strep.
Exactly, so I could eat my Christmas dinner.
That's right, man. Spend some time with the loved ones. But I was like absolutely fine, but randomly, like a couple of days ago, just got really bad pink eye. So I'm absolutely fine. So it's funny, isn't it? Because obviously it must have made its way through my system, but just for whatever reason with me, all it's done is basically just given me really bloodshotty eyes.
Yeah.
It said my eyes aren't sore or anything. I was saying to the lads, like, my eyes aren't sore. It just feels like for any like gamers out there, it feels like I played a computer game for like about 12 hours in a row. That's what it feels like in terms of my eyes. And my eyes
feels
feel
a bit funny
like,
every time I blink.
Yeah, like, I sort of feel like I want to like stretch my eyes, and maybe they feel like ever so slightly, not even achy, but you know what I mean? Like that feeling when like you can tell you've just been like playing a computer game for ages and they're almost like you just want to like blink hard. Do you know what I mean? It's like hard to describe, innit? You sort of just want to like blink your eyes hard and stuff like that. Almost like put some water in your eyes or something. But yeah, strange, isn't it?
I do think I definitely agree with what we were saying during the break about how I think it's better to push through it and not take the antibiotics
because
if you can.
You had the poops, didn't you, in Costa Rica?
Yeah, really, really bad.
And you went to go see the doctors and they were trying to give you antibiotics, but you basically didn't want them.
Yeah, and I thought I've had it for quite long anyway, like 4 days or something.
Yeah.
I thought I can't, unless it's really serious and really bad, it's not going to be any more than a week, so a few more days of it. So I don't want to start taking antibiotics like towards the end of where my body's probably going to just get rid of it anyway.
And you said you felt fine apart from...
Yeah, and I felt absolutely 100% apart from needing to run to the toilet every 2 hours.
And you definitely did the right thing, because you said that 2 days later you were like fine.
Yes,
but if you took the antibiotics...
all your gut biome and everything would have
just destroy that.
Yeah.
Because obviously, for people that don't know, obviously when you take antibiotics, they obviously... The good thing about them is obviously they kill bacteria, so that means that they kill the bad bacteria, which has caused you to get ill, like your infection or whatever. But obviously you've got lots of millions of good bacteria, if not billions, in your body as well, and they actually are really important. Like they actually crucial for like immune system, digestion, everything. And you nuke them as well. So what you're doing is almost like going back to default settings.
Yeah, got to start from scratch.
But that's quite annoying in a way.
Yeah,
I mean, because you've built
loads of probiotics.
You've built this gut biome, through the years, and like I know that you're pretty into it as well, Drew. But I make sure I eat like Greek yogurt every single day. Feel like because it has lots of good gut bacteria in it and stuff like that, and just
it always blew my mind as well. Like, say if you've got like a bit of a bad diet or like not, but like lots of fast food and stuff like that. That craving for the fast food is actually because of your gut biome. Like it's the bacteria in your gut that's craving it, not actually you and your body. Like
that's mad, isn't it?
You can train your body to have a different gut biome from eating healthier food, and then it will crave that. And I'm like, that's so crazy.
You can see it as well because people that go to the gym all the time and eat healthy foods, they won't have cravings for things like McDonald's at all.
No.
And if anything, thinking about it makes them sort of go like, oh, I don't want to eat that rubbish.
Yeah, and
whereas people
weird,
that eat McDonald's on a regular basis, they are like gagging to have a Mackies.
And I find it with more like sweeter foods and stuff. Say like cakes and things like that. I've never really been like a cake person. I've always been a more savoury person than like a cake person. I do really enjoy like a chocolate brownie or something like every now and again or something like but it's not King Kong. Some people like with a sugar. Like even like my niece Naya, I get worried because she's like sugar obsessed.
I'm sure I'm completely the same. Sugar, I don't know why. It's just always been the one for me. That's like I could probably like actually like eat a tub of sugar.
Yeah.
But you kind of bring yourself away from it. But I remember there's definitely times where I've been almost like addicted to these. Like I remember there was this one like Boost made this isotonic drink, like Boost the energy drink. They made this isotonic drink similar to Lucozade Sport, and it was like 30 pence per drink. So it's not got good stuff in it when it's 30p for a drink. But I remember me and my friends started drinking them before football, and then without any time had passed, we were having like 5 a day. Because it was literally just like buying, we'd go to the shop before school, be like, right, I'm going to get, 5 isotonics. You just put down in them. Yeah. And I remember it was almost like you'd take a sip and your eyes would do like,
Yeah,
and you'd be on it, and that was the whole rest
Sugar
of the
rush.
day. Exactly.
Yeah.
And as soon as you weren't having one, you're like, man, I crave the taste of like a Boost Ice.
I went through a stage of that in like my very early 20s with like Monster Energy drinks. Just like, and I think because obviously the fact they have loads of caffeine in, because I love my coffee as well. It was like, yeah, it was just. I like at the time I lived in Chiltern Street, and just like literally like a 60-second walk down the road there was this shop called SR News. So it was so easy for me to just wake up in the morning, just walk there and just grab a Monster.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? When you've got like a convenience shop, like, like right there. Like, I was like, oh.
Yeah, so I kind of said I haven't been thing with it, but thinking about it, like I have, but it is just different things. Like, yeah, it can be drinks and stuff. Like I remember I'd go
Red Bull.
like Red Bull. I drink those quite a lot when I was.
And they have
like,
loads of
younger.
sugar in, obviously.
Yeah, and also when I was working at Hinkley. Every time I'd wait for the bus in the morning, I would get a Costa coffee from the you know, like the portable Costa coffee things that are in like spas and stuff, and I get one of those with like a caramel shot in it or whatever.
Oh yes,
and that is just full sugar.
Straight up.
And then like I was doing that every day for a while and craving those every morning. So even if it is just one a day, your body knows that's coming and still wants it. But now like kind of weaning off that. Or like not having so much sugary stuff. Like I don't kind of crave that.
I think it's mad. Obviously, the levels to it as well, because when I was probably at like my best shape, I would say I've ever been in, I could survive very easily off of just like animal protein sources and like green vegetables essentially, and then like berries. So that's all I was eating. And then as well, I was just having like water and milk. So it was like just cow's milk, water, and then combinations of like cod, chicken, beef, salmon, all things like that. And then basically just like broccoli, asparagus, maybe the odd tomatoes, but not even much tomatoes. And then just like blueberries and raspberries essentially, right? That's pretty much all I was eating. I would supplement with vitamins as well, things like cod liver oil, vitamin D, a couple of other things, maybe like creatine. I'll talk a little bit about creatine actually in a sec, but the reason that it was easy to do it at the time was because I'd gotten used to doing it, and that might sound almost like a really like, well, yeah, obviously sort of thing, but it's not obvious. So like if you try to do it now, it would seem super hard. It would seem super hard, and if you're used to having even a moderate amount of carbohydrates in your diet. And I'm not talking about things like sugars. I'm just talking about things like
taties,
even things like sourdough bread, rice. You know, like
is rice a carb?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I like rice.
Even things like sweet potatoes. You know, which are like probably the healthiest potatoes you could have, arguably.
Lovely sweet potato.
Yeah, and super low in glycemic index. Really slow, releasing form of carbohydrate. Very healthy if you've got lots of nutrients in. But even things like that, your body will crave them. At the moment, I would find it really hard if, like, tomorrow somebody said to me, right, Calum, you just have to live off nothing but those animal sources, protein sources, I said, and just basically asparagus and broccoli and leafy greens, like spinach and stuff. I would really struggle for a while. But after about a month, I'd get used to it, and it would not be a struggle anymore. Yeah. But that first month would seem really hard. You'd almost feel like at the end of every meal, you would have such strong cravings for things like bread and butter.
It's like
I just want to have like a baked potato. I want to have a jacket potato with this. I want to like have a couple of slices of bread with this. Like, and it would be super hard not to go to the kitchen and get that. And it's like, and the thing is, that's a healthy meal still. I'm not saying the thing like, do you know what I mean? You could have like potato and obviously that's a super healthy meal. That's more sort of how I'm eating at the moment. But it's what we were saying about that gut microbiome and stuff. It's like, you know, it's like your body gets used to something. And it's probably got the bacteria in your stomach that then's craving that. Like, you know what I mean? I imagine there's very, like, different types of bacteria that say want to live off things like carbohydrates, even healthy carbohydrates like sweet potatoes and rice, rather than say want to eat in the broccoli and the cod and the beef and stuff. And it's like, if you're not supplying that, it's probably sending little signals out. That's like, please
hunger signals. Hunger signals. Yeah, it's crazy as well. Like, I don't know what it is about my diet. I don't like it. I'm a little bit worried about it. Like with like salt and like I really love my food being like tasty and salty, like but like so things like miso. Have you like used miso before? I didn't.
Miso
the
salt?
buttery.
It's like it's a paste.
Oh, okay.
And it's like a miso paste. And it's like an Asian kind of paste.
Oh, I don't know, mate.
that's really nice, but it's quite salty. And
what's
got
I think
a
I
hint of
remember you saying
texture.
about
What's
this.
in the paste? What's in it?
I don't know. It's like
Oh, so you
I have no
don't
idea.
even
No, like Meg, like when she, I think it's quite healthy. I think it's
This is
supposed
what
to
I
be
was
quite
saying about
healthy.
you and jumping in rivers, mate.
Yeah.
The first time I look at anything, right, I'll be like, "What's in this?"
Yeah, miso. I don't know. It's a type of paste that makes
Mate.
things like really salty,
Let's find out.
or like, or in my opinion, like really
So, like
tasty.
MISO.
I don't even. Oh yeah. I thought you were saying like that was like a name of a compound. There or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
You know, or to have any
So many
MISO in it.
Miso is a traditional Japanese seasoning. It is a thick paste produced by fermented soybeans with salt and koji, and sometimes rice, barley, seaweed, or other ingredients.
So it's like
quite good.
fermented
Fermented soybeans.
Soybeans. So that doesn't sound that bad.
Doesn't
but
sound that bad.
Do you know what I mean? Like that, but it's like packed with flavour. You wouldn't want just a little bit, like you kind of
it's
mix it into a dish,
moreish.
or like say like soy sauce,
Or like peanut butter.
Like-
You know how you want more the better. You don't just, you know what I mean? You have like a bit and you're like, I want more.
Oh man! The other day, we started making,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. But we've gone through a whole tub in 3 days. Like like nut butters, so like peanut butter and
baby.
stuff.
Yeah.
But like cashew butter is like super expensive. Like you get a tiny little tub for like over £5 in the
why I don't
supermarket.
get it.
Exactly, it's why you don't get it. It's why I've never tried it. It's why I've always
it's
had
delicious.
peanut butter.
Yeah.
But it's insanely delicious.
I think
like
all
Meg
nut
had tried.
butters.
Yeah, like
Oh,
Meg had
so
some
good.
once, and I tried, and I was like, oh my god, that's so good. So we just ordered like a kilogram of
Man, that's
cashews.
making me hungry.
And
Did you make your own?
Yeah, but man, it is insane. It's nicer than any of the store-bought ones. And we did it wrong at first, so we wasted half of the cashews because basically like Meg like soaked them overnight because
Right.
apparently that's supposed to make things easier digestible.
So, like,
and that.
mush 'em up
But,
or whatever?
Yeah, but like when we actually tried to like blend them into the nut butter with the process, it just didn't work. It didn't go to that consistency. But if you completely dry them out either in a dehumidifier or if you bake it like in the oven for 15 minutes,
can
but
imagine, yeah.
but just at a really low setting, we did that and didn't soak them, and it just turned into like the tastiest like nut butter like ever.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, it's so good. But I'm like, oh, and you know, you can get a kilogram for say like £10, and that and like, you know, just under half a bag of that was like a massive jar of it. So imagine how much
So-
cheaper that is than going
So
to the
what's
supermarket.
the process? So you bake them, dry them out.
Basically, super easy. We got a food
you, like, just
processor, and it's
yeah.
not just like a normal blender. It's like this thing that you put on, and it's like
It's
what
got
you
an
put in-
orgasmatron.
Yeah, it's this orgasmatron thing that you put on it, and then basically like that you just like blend it up for like 10 minutes, and
simple as that.
and it goes through different stages. At first, it goes into like brittly,
Yeah.
and then it clumps up into a ball, and you think,
Yeah.
oh, what am I doing? And then you just got to stick with the process, and then all of a sudden something happens where the oils get released from the butter from the nut, and then it mixes with it, and then it just goes into this like delightfully like.
So you don't even have to. So what did you say? You mix it? You don't mix it with anything.
You can mix a little bit of oil in it, like avocado oil or something like
Right.
that, in with
Right.
it to make it even more fluffy. So we just had like a teaspoon of avocado oil as well, a little bit of sea salt to get, you know what I mean?
Oh, mate, yeah, it's
but
gotta be done.
man, it is the
Also, it's a
nicest
preservative, so
thing.
make it last longer.
And I thought I'm actually going to try and make a little business out of this because it's so expensive, like £5 for a thing.
Mate,
and
we
we
need
got
to take some
the
pictures of you.
Drew's nut.
Yeah, we got
Drew's nuts.
we got the. I was thinking, do you know,
With you like that.
because it's all organic as well. I thought of like
organic nuts.
and you know, like the spiritual.
And
thing,
it could just say, "Get
I was
these
gonna,
nuts."
I was thinking like nom, like NOHM, like nom, but like nom, like nomming.
that's
Nom
and
nuts.
I did this little. I designed this little label for it and everything. I thought I'm gonna just get like 20. You can buy 22 kilogram cashew, like organic cashews, like certified organic cashews, like 22
That's a lot of
kilograms.
cashews, mate.
Yeah, for like about £200.
Yeah.
But you know, you put all of those into like 300
Yeah.
like mil kind of thing.
I will not-
sell them at Fruit Market.
Yeah. Do not be surprised though. Just
Damn.
disclaimer for anyone that ends up having Drew's nuts. If you end up a bit high afterwards, don't be surprised. All right? If you end up tripping,
purely 100% organic nut and organic avocado oil.
Drew's organic
Nicest thing
nuts.
you've ever tried.
Drew's organic nuts.
Oh, yeah,
I really
baby.
just want one of the things to be like in like speech marks. Come get these nuts. That'd be so.
You've got to have loads of just these nuts
Have you
jokes
just-
on all the
just like
different
that.
things.
Come get these
You know how
nuts.
like a penguin, the little chocolate bar always has a joke on the back.
Yeah.
You could just always have a different these nuts
Yeah.
joke on the package.
Come get these nuts. Nom.
Oh, mate.
Different
go.
ones. Drew's
But-
organic nuts.
Mate, I thought I want to do it just for a little bit of side income.
Side
you know
hustle.
what I mean?
Side hustle.
Side hustle, man. Just get some organic cashew butter because it's so expensive in the shops. And I was thinking you could sell it for like cheaper, but it's so
I always think it's
lovely organic.
as well as it's amazing how simple things like that are to make. Like when you describe it, I'm like, man, anyone could do that. And
Yeah.
it's like Em makes a lot of just homemade jam because it's way healthier and it actually tastes better.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's like all you basically need to do is put some in a pan on the hob, like some berries, and just stir it up, put with some like chia seeds and stuff.
Kind of like reduce it.
And it's just that's it. That's literally it. Like just wait for it to cool again.
Tastiest jam you've ever had.
Put it in a nice little glass pot. Put it in the fridge. It
Well, it's not got all of these like preservatives.
No, I was
going to
say,
it
it won't last as long as obviously the jam you get from the supermarket, but that's because it has all the preservatives in it. So you need to sort of like eat it within probably like 4 or 5 days. But I mean, obviously, if you're the one making it, you can decide how much to make. So if you don't think you're going to have too much, then just don't put too many berries in. And also, really, even for like, say, like a standard pot, if you're within like a household, say you've got like a family unit, that can go pretty quickly, especially if you are a big fan of something like sourdough bread or bread in general, and you just want to smother it all over it. You know, it's like, that'll go quick.
And it's like this nut butter. It was gone in 3 days, man. Like this, and I think, how have we ate so much like of it and that? But you can like put it in curries and that, and it just makes it so.
And because you
much
know
more,
it's healthy and you know what's gone into it, you know there's no rubbish in it, you will eat more of it. Do you know what I mean? Because you know, like let's face it, right? If I ate like a punnet of blueberries a day, which isn't uncommon, if I'm basically putting a punnet of blueberries to put in with jam, and the only thing I'm mixing it is with like chia seeds, which is essentially just a bit of protein and fiber, a bit of plant protein and fiber. Like I can eat that whole tub of jam if I want. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's no different. It's no different. It's just really good for you. You know, it's just really good for you. So
damn,
Life hacks.
love it.
let's everyone make your own stuff.
Or don't buy it from me.
Yeah,
or
you've given
don't.
out your idea to everyone now.
Yeah, I know,
You'll find
that's what I was
Sam
thinking, I
Peach
should- I should, like,
selling his own
cut-
nut.
People
I
won't
should've
be
cut,
doing
like-
it. Most people won't be doing that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I just think I
We
think
definitely messed up half a bag of it by doing it wrong at first, and,
Yeah.
and some people like you got to have a good blender for it. and
super
stuff,
complicated
you know?
guys. All right, don't try
Yeah,
it.
don't,
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
try it
yeah,
at home.
yeah.
Don't try it at home.
Just buy it off. Just
Non
come
butter,
Come get these nuts.
Exactly.
Come get these nuts, guys. Come get these nuts.
non organic.
A non-organic baby. Hashtag come get these nuts.
Yeah.
Drew's organic nuts. Yeah, man. Food. But I think one of the things we were talking about as well, sorry, just during that last little break, well, you know, just getting back to sort of things like painkillers. Like antibiotics, painkillers and stuff like that, is one of the reasons I don't even like to take, you were saying like symptoms of your illness often are there. Basically, that's your body's way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I don't even like taking painkillers. Like, I never ever take ibuprofen, and I only will ever take paracetamol if I'm like super, super, super unwell.
Why never ibuprofen? Is it?
It's just not very good for you.
Okay.
Right.
But also just because obviously it's a stronger painkiller than paracetamol, and
okay.
because I'm not very pro painkiller anyway. But one of the reasons why, it's not just because I'm trying to be like super tough. It's because basically one of the reasons why you feel like pain in an area is because it's think of it as like a little beacon for like for your wider body and like your brain. So if there's not like a signal from that specific area, wherever it be, say you've got like a throat infection, your throat's just savage. I'm not saying obviously don't take something to like help out your throat pain because it's horrible, isn't it? Something like a sore throat, so one of the worst because every time you swallow
Or tooth.
My throat is literally every single time I get ill on any level. I could literally have a little sniffle and I'll be wiped out for my throat
Really? That's
every
mad.
single time.
But yeah, so like I'm not saying necessarily, just don't ever like do anything like that. But obviously any of these little signals, it's so your brain knows basically to like, right, heal this area.
Hone in on it.
Yeah, like send in the troops.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Well, the thing is obviously when you take painkillers, and this is a scientific fact, this isn't my opinion. This is documented in scientific literature. Like when you're taking painkillers, you're dulling the signal.
Yeah.
So it will take you longer to
I've
recover.
never thought about it like that. I've always thought of it as like that I thought the process was even if it was numbed, your body would still know. But that's like saying like if it's numbed, your body doesn't know and it doesn't.
I'm not
send
sure if
stuff.
it doesn't know at all, but you're
but
definitely blurring the signals.
yeah.
So it's like it's proven that your body becomes less efficient at dealing with whatever that pain is. And for me, I just want to get better soon.
Yeah.
I want to get
Yeah,
better
yeah,
as quick
yeah.
as possible. Like it's an inconvenience to me to be incapacitated in whatever way I'm being.
So if that
incapacitated
means
currently.
taking a bit of pain to make it quicker, then that's the
So
best thing.
be it.
Because it is.
So
It's
be
almost
it.
like your
Don't drag
body's
it out.
way of like
Yeah.
detoxifying
Yeah.
whatever's toxic in your body.
Well, let's face it, you're not going to feel. It's not like you're going to magically feel better just because you're taking the painkillers. You're just going to not feel as bad for about 4 hours, and then what? You're going to take some more. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and also painkillers themselves are very bad for you. So it's like whether it's bad for your, they're not
Bruce
very.
Lee died.
They're not very. Yeah, they're not very good for your liver. They're not very good for your kidneys, and they're not particularly good for your heart as well. I don't think paracetamol is bad for your heart necessarily, but I know that ibuprofen is very bad for your heart, things like that, and I know that things like solpadeine are very bad for your heart as well, especially that for people that already have any sort of cardiac issue. What was it? I'm pretty sure. What was it? I think I heard it. I think I actually randomly heard it on the Joe Rogan podcast actually, and then I looked into it. Like I followed up with my own research. Surprised I never talked about it on the podcast before. Maybe I meant to and I just forgot. I'm pretty sure I heard that more people died in the UK during the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic, from complications from overdosing on paracetamol. More people died from that than died of COVID.
Whoa.
That's
How mad is that?
madness, isn't it?
That is mental.
But whenever do you hear about that in the media?
Yeah.
You never hear painkiller like crisis, people dying from side effects of painkiller
or
overdose.
alcoholism or something.
Yeah, but I thought that was really interesting. Like that, I'm pretty sure that was just paracetamol. That wasn't all painkillers.
Yeah.
That was just and paracetamol was like the weak one.
Yeah.
Paracetamol was like the little one that's like got the least amount of side effects, the least things like that. But I think people, because you could buy it in a shop, and because it's made by like all these companies, and you can literally just go in a Sainsbury's or Asda and buy some. I guess
it's
people,
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But and then people end up popping them like you wouldn't believe, and then you're not realizing that these things are actually pretty damn bad for your body, man. And as I said, can cause you to die.
Yeah.
And apparently
It's
a lot of people, I think it could potentially stem from hypochondria, and it could stem from genuine illness, and then it ends up becoming like a vicious cycle. You end up you sometimes see people that start taking painkillers for whatever reason, and then they end up having side effects, and as a result they end up going to the doctors more. Doctors say they don't know what's wrong with them. They acknowledge that you're suffering from symptoms of something, but they don't know why. You end up taking more painkillers, more medication, end up it's exacerbating the situation. You get going back to the doctors more. They're doing blood tests on you. They're doing all this stuff. They can't really find out what's wrong with you. You're probably even increasing your dose. And then you might end up with real bad health complications. And it's really ironic in a way. It's like a Greek tragedy because it could literally be caused by the medication you're taking. It's interesting, even like on like a not like a hypochondriac sort of level. I remember there's a guy called Cameron Haynes, and he's one of those guys that's just like a don of like the Homo sapiens species. He's like a ultra.
Does he do a lot of hunting?
He's a bow hunter.
Bow hunter, yeah.
He's
that's
also
what I
like an
know.
ultra marathon runner. He's one of those guys that like just works out all the time. He's a bit of like a David Goggins, sort of Pat McNamara, Jocko Willink type. Do you know what I mean? He's like super motivational, super on it, just like super cool guy. Like one of those guys that's like super alpha, but also just super cool. Just an amazing guy, a real inspiration of a guy. But because he's an ultra marathon runner, as you can imagine, he suffers and has suffered on and off from like really bad like knee pain and stuff like that, because it's just sort of like one of the
Hard on your knees,
wares of
man.
the trade.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
You can't be running like 30 miles a day every day for your life and just not ever have any knee trouble. But he was saying that when he was like younger and less sort of like wise and less in the know, and was running like ultra marathons all the time, he got to a stage where the doctors tell you, okay, you've got inflammation in this part of your body, you need to take anti-inflammatories. So he was taking anti-inflammatories all the time. And he was saying, and it got to the stage where it was just really bad all the time. And then naturally he was just taking even more and more, thinking, oh man, I must be so bad because I'm taking all these anti-inflammatories, but I'm just feeling worse. And then he spoke to somebody, and then they basically advised him, like, you need to come off them. You need to come off all those anti-inflammatories. Came off the anti-inflammatories, and his knee pains went away.
Wow.
And obviously what you actually find, and what thing I don't think people realise, is a lot of the even things like anti-inflammatories, they cause inflammation with long-term use.
Yeah.
With long-term use, they cause inflammation.
So
and one of the
crazy,
side
isn't
effects of inflammation is pain. You know, if you feel pain in there, it could be because it's inflamed, you know, and it could be because of injury. It could be because of medication you're taking. It could be from, you know, it could even be from food you're eating that you're slightly allergic to, maybe you don't realise. But, you know, there's many different symptoms of inflammation, but like one of, you know, and he came off the anti-inflammatories and came off all the pain meds, and he was fine. So he was still doing the exercise, he was still doing the running, but it's funny, isn't it? It's like, you can so see how you would think that, like, okay, I've got, you know, he originally did have this pain, so you're going to take this, and maybe it help a little bit at first.
But then it causes other things, and that's the thing.
Ends
like,
up making it worse.
Yeah, and like and when you see it in your own family and stuff as well, it's like, oh, like my nan. I think I might have mentioned it before as well, but she's been taking she has steroid injections in her knees.
Roider now.
And she for
beating
like
your granddad up.
for like
Roid rage.
15 years. She's just trying to get that pump on, but like no, but it's literally
Mary,
because she broke both of her legs from this dog like running into her
man, I remember.
like years ago.
Coco.
And then like literally like her knees have like been really bad since, but she always gets steroid injections in her knees to like kind of to strengthen them. I don't know much about it, but like
Steroids are very powerful.
But yeah,
Very powerful.
so her knees are better, but she can hardly still walk anywhere anyway. And that as a side effect of that, her skin is like not
Razor
even
thin.
is like wafer thin. You know, so like you could touch her skin like that and
it'd
it would
bleed.
cut. It would cut her.
That's crazy.
And she's been through. And we went to the what's it called, like the hippodrome, like the like a pantomime.
Oh, right.
We went to a pantomime over Christmas, and my nan fell up a step, and it literally like ripped all the skin off her leg and that, and it was so savage, and it's still bad now. How many months after? Like, you know, it's not healed properly, and she's having to go to the doctors all the time to get it free. And I'm like, Nan, please come off those steroid injections, because literally after all these years, look what it's done to your skin. And she could hardly move. It's like she's like so weak with it, and it's like, yeah, it's savage to see these side effects sometimes of things like that, especially over like long term use.
Your body's a temple. You don't want to put random foreign substances into it.
Oh, baby, yeah, man. Body's a temple, baby. But yeah, I think especially, you know, when you see with like super elderly, unfortunately, the older you get, the slower you tend to recover from things. When you're a little kid, you're a bit like Wolverine. Do you know what I mean? You like can cut yourself, and a couple of days later, it's like fine. And obviously, you know, the older you're at, you know, let's face it, like your nan's like a seasoned veteran of the modern world. Do you know what I mean? She's older than most, so unfortunately, it's going to take her longer to recover. But yeah, if you've got like wafer thin skin and everything, like it's a bit weird. Like I say, like you see some of the side effects from all the different steroids that you see, like, you know what I mean? I like watch videos of it online and stuff, and it's like crazy. Apparently, what was it I was hearing about? What was it? There's this side effect. There's this really powerful steroid that's really common amongst like weightlifters and bodybuilders, and it's called trenbolone. That's the sound. It's called tren.
I remember you saying this to
People
me.
call it tren, but it's called trenbolone. And one of the reasons why people love taking it is because it's one of the main steroids that makes you really strong. Like it will almost make you like superhumanly strong. If you ever watch a video online, if you're ever scrolling through like shorts on YouTube or whatever, and for some reason a video comes up and it's like a guy that's like massive and he's lifted in like redonkulous weight. I'm not talking like heavyweight, I'm talking redonkulous weight, and he's only been lifting for like 4 years. He's pretty guarantees on tren. Like you can pretty much guarantee he's on trenbolone. You know what I mean? If he's there benching like 600 pounds, he's on tren. But it's also a super dangerous drug. Like you see like a lot of guys that were taking it have like died literally even in their 20s. Even in their 20s.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I can't remember what was the name.
It was about the cough that you were saying to me.
Yeah, that's it. Tren cough. One of the side effects from taking tren is you end up with this like savage cough, and it makes you feel like you've almost got the flu. And apparently it's really weird because it makes you like super strong and you look super jacked, but you feel like rubbish. You feel like crap.
Man, it's,
and I think like,
so crazy, like why people. I don't know. I don't understand it. You know,
Just for the aesthetic.
And it's weird. There's such a bad steroid problem in like modern day bodybuilding, and it's like interesting because I'm just obviously into lifting. Even recently, I was watching this podcast with this well-known bodybuilder from the early '90s called Lee Priest. Yeah, I think one of his nicknames like the bad boy of bodybuilding or something, or like the lone wolf, because he was one of those guys who would always like speak out really honestly about stuff. Like sponsorship companies would be like, "Oh, we'll pay you like $1 million." Like or whatever if you say that like the reason you're as jacked as you are is because you took this supplement. He'd be like, nah, I'm not going to do that, man, because it's not true. And they'd be like, yeah, but that's how business works. I don't care. I'm not going to lie to people.
Yeah.
But like as a result, and he spoke out a lot up against the IFBB, which is like the big federation which is the federation that sort of like has a monopoly on everything.
So is it allowed in
he was-
bodybuilding?
Yeah.
Like steroid uses?
So yeah. And so he was banned from the IFBB because he was so honest and because he spoke out about stuff. One of the reasons he was speaking out about was like the obviously IFBB, because of the way that the scoring is done and the judging and everything. It's almost like without actively doing it, it's basically almost like promoting like all this drug abuse. And now you're seeing these guys and they're like 20s and 30s and 40s just dropping down dead, like almost like flies, man. Like it happens like every year now. But
was he all natural? Did he?
No, he took roids, but he was saying this is the thing. This is why it's like gotten such a big problem. Like in the early 90s, there were guys taking steroids, but they would like it was much more common to like start off and you'd train for years naturally, and then you'd slowly come on stuff, and you'd slowly increase the dose, and then you'd almost find like it's like chemistry. You see with these bodybuilders, they are like chemists. They would take like a little bit of test, a little bit of clenbuterol, a little bit of dianabol, a little bit of Anavar.
Sounds mad, man.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I listening to it, and it's weird because I know a lot about training and I know a lot about nutrition, but even like with this stuff, I think, oh mate, like, that's so complicated.
Yeah,
Like, I don't even know.
yeah.
Like, even if I wanted to come on steroids, I wouldn't know where to freaking start.
Yeah.
But yeah. So he was saying like you would like you'd start off on something small, and if you were getting good results from something, you wouldn't take any more. And he was saying that the only time in his career. He had like his sort of like, his little list of things that he would take back when he was like winning shows all the time. And he was saying that, there was this one time when I think he started working with this new coach or something like that. And then they like said, why don't you take a little bit more of that? And he was like, well, I'm getting good results as I am, but okay, we'll try it. And he did. And he said he didn't look any different, but he just felt awful. So he obviously went back to what he was saying before, but he was saying the problem is with young bodybuilders nowadays, what they tend to do is they'll almost, for a start, they don't usually train as a natural for years and then slowly come on stuff. What you usually find is, and I've seen this even locally. I've seen this. I'm not even talking about pro bodybuilders. I'm just talking about guys that I know in this town. They pretty much start taking steroids the same time they start training, right? So it's like start training, a month later, you start hopping on gear. They obviously are not smart about the science of it in terms of like dosing or anything like that. It's like a bit like what we've touched on, similar elements throughout this whole podcast today. They almost have like a more is better approach or something. Or it's like, this weird thing about the human mind. We oversimplify things. So, okay, well, it makes sense. If I'm taking this and I'm going to get good results, I'll take more of it and I'll get better. Not necessarily, obviously, that's not necessarily how it works.
You've got to find the perfect balance for you.
So they'll start taking gear almost the moment they start working out, and then they take far too much. So, like, the amount of gear that like bodybuilders are on nowadays compared to like the 90s, and even more so if you go back to say like the 70s, like Arnold's era, it's like staggering. I say like most of Arnold and most of his contemporaries are still alive. I mean, a couple of them are dead, but then again, Arnold's in his like well into his 70s. I think he's like in his late 70s, so it's like pretty natural that like like his best friend Franco Columbo died a couple of years ago, but he died of drowning accidentally. He'd accidentally drowned.
Yeah.
Didn't die of anything to do with like a heart attack or liver failure.
Mad.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's loads of all the bodybuilders from his era still alive, like all this Mike Katz, like Robbie Robinson, like all the well-known bodybuilders from his era. The guy that was sort of like, Lee Haney, who was like the best bodybuilder in the 80s, he's still alive. He's like in his late 60s now. And then meanwhile, you've got all the current generation of the last sort of 10, 15 years, and they're all just like dying in their like 20s, 30s.
Dropping like flies.
They literally are, mate. It's mental.
It's crazy, man.
I can't even remember how we got onto that, but yeah.
I saw a cool thing.
Oh
this
yeah, because you were
past
saying
week
about your nan
as well.
Yeah, go on.
I was watching this philosophy video, and it was talking about an experiment that these people did, and the experiment was essentially testing whether you could put childhood memories into people's minds just by speaking. Like, so for example, the test they did is they went up to this person and was like, oh, do you remember when you were 6 and this happened? And it would be a completely fabricated memory that did not happen. And like they would have gotten a grandparent or a parent to have said this to this person.
Verify it, yeah.
Yeah, and then it wouldn't have been a real thing. And then like a year later, they would be asked like the same question of, oh, do you remember, this same event? And all the people, even though it was a completely fabricated memory, totally believed that this event happened and that they can like actually recall memories.
Really?
Yeah, so they feel like they can recall being there, they can recall doing all this stuff, even if their original reaction the year earlier may have been, I don't remember that.
So it's like a planted memory.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially the idea is that you could plant memories into people's minds. And I thought that was really fascinating. Like, imagine being able to go up to anyone and just plant in like a core memory in someone's mind, be like, this happened.
I know that,
and they just believe it.
Yeah, I know that's one of the reasons why it's really important in like law, in like crime and stuff like that, to have like multiple witnesses, because it's not even like necessary if you just have one witness. It's not that necessary that they're trying to mislead you. I mean, yeah, again, that's an extra problem because they also might be trying to mislead you for whatever reason. But it's because, especially in high stress situations, you know, situations that are involving car crashes, shootings, deaths, muggings, violence, whatever, like they tend to be quite stressful, which is when your brain sort of goes haywire anyway. You know, adrenaline and cortisol just spikes in your brain. And then your version of events might not be true.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting as well. Someone was talking about memories, and I was listening to them talking about it and saying about even every memory that we have. It's like when you look at the way it is formed in your brain with like the neural network, it changes every time you remember it again.
Because you're like recalling the same memory.
Yeah, you're recalling it, but...
You're recalling the memory of a memory.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then that changes the memory. And then the more you think about it, or like, you know, or if you think... and your mind is infinitely creative as well. So the mixture of your mind being creative, plus you are building upon that kind of like layer of memory with a new like little like, you know, thing. Do you know what I mean? Imagine it just like building up. That's how I was kind of like how I was thinking about it. And it is, and it shows you how something can become distorted. And it is, and your mind, your brain is an organic thing that is literally changing in cells and stuff. Organically orgasmic, you know. So that makes sense. The fact that you could plant something because it is something there. Even if someone asks you and you know the person they're talking about, you know what they're saying, you know the place that they're talking about, so you bring that up as a memory in your head, or as a internal image of what it might have looked like.
Planting the seed.
That is then there. That is then there as a thing, as an organic thing in your head. So then, if you think about it again, you're going to build upon that, and then you think, oh yeah, that's a memory.
It's interesting as well, isn't it? Because like, and it's interesting. It's like, you know, it's funny. One of these things is like, would everyone just think this? And it's sort of like ignorance, but it's like my immediate sort of like response, like to that, or like my inclination is to think that like I don't think I suffer from any of that. Do you know what I mean? But then again, it's just one of those things that it's like, well, would everyone?
Yeah, would everyone?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I can't think of any examples of any memories I have that I have because somebody's told me it happened. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it would almost like you wouldn't know.
No,
yeah, do you know what I mean?
Because you would just be in your mind, you would just 100% think that did happen.
Yeah, but I even a couple of days ago, I was thinking this when I was out on a walk with Rupert, and like, you know, the amount of experiences that you've had and stuff like in your life, and sometimes I like really wish that I could remember like exactly what it was like even if you don't think about it, does that make that memory like recede back more, like so, do you know what I mean, like that it's harder to call upon, like are the ones that you think about more the ones that are stronger?
100%.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And I
like
get
revision,
really sad.
It's like revision.
And it is, and I get really sad about the fact that like I can't remember.
A lot of good
that was what it was. I was out on a walk with Rupert, and I fed him this treat, and like so he doesn't just gulp it down, I like hold the treat and like get him to like nibble it rather than just like, you know, I know it sounds weird, but like rather, because if you give him a piece of meat, a fat piece of meat, he'd just go and just swallow it, not rather than chewing it. You know, so I'm like, right now I'm gonna hold this meat and you're gonna bite your little piece of it.
I'm gonna hold my meat. I'm gonna hold my meat and get him to nibble it.
Yeah. So that's what we do on our spare time. And I was thinking, I remember my old dog Tango from years ago.
Want to nibble it.
Like he was well better at eating things. So he wouldn't just grab it and swallow it. He would chew it. You know what I mean?
He'd make love to it.
The throat go.
So I was thinking, but I didn't remember that memory as like I couldn't remember. I was like, oh, what was Tango actually like as a dog? You know,
pretty damn sensual lover.
I was thinking like, what was you know, what was that that interaction really of knowing this little being that was in my life for all these years.
Yeah.
But I haven't
remember
thought
him, man.
about Tango,
I remember him,
and I do, but I don't as much as I want to.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then
Yeah,
it's like I wish I could have more power.
I remember that he
over
was a
the
very good
cognition of it.
dog.
Yeah, and
Very
he was
well behaved dog.
Yeah.
I always remember it was like one of those things, like, it's like different dogs different. Like, like whenever I see Floki, he's a little
yappy little.
he's a little KNOB, isn't he?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't mean that like in a bad, like, I don't dislike him, but he is a little KNOB, isn't he? Like, I was good at yappy stuff. I'm like, mate, for God's sake, how many times have you seen me?
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? I've been friends with your family like way longer than you've even been alive, man. Like, you don't need to be treating me like I'm this like massive threat. And then he's like typical short man syndrome. It's like yapping, but then like, if I then like just as a joke go like, ugh, to him or something, you're like, and then like the moment then I'm just acting cool again, you're like, do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, you little, But I remember with Tango, because he was a bit of a bigger dog, I guess maybe a bit more like secure in himself and well trained or whatever. But yeah, it was just always like proper chill.
Yeah.
Especially because I would have only been like 11, 12, 13 when I was around him.
Super
really
chill,
nice, like stroke
super
him,
loving.
never bark
Good
at
dog.
you.
Yeah.
They say the same about dreams as memories. They say sometimes like your things
I
that
have
you
that.
may
I have
may think are real
Are dreams.
may have actually just been dreams that happened. I definitely have had. I'll recall memories to people and they'll be like, "That didn't happen." I'll be like, "I think
maybe
it
it's a
did," but in my head, it's actually probably just a dream.
Well,
that
to
I
be
had.
fair, it could just be that they didn't remember it.
True, yeah,
But
true.
I definitely do have some memories or not memories that I can't tell if they were dreams or memories. I do have a couple of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know for a
because they're
fact,
so
yeah.
real as well.
Yeah.
Like when, especially when you have a really vivid dream, it is like it is literally like you don't just experience it; you like feel it with visceral like reality. You know,
But it is interesting, obviously, because there's only so much we can remember individually, and it's like, why do you even remember the things you do? And different people are going to remember different things than you. I think one good thing about having like say like the same friendship group for like a long period of time or something like that. I can't think of examples with you Drew, or say Josh, but even more extreme with Josh, where we've known each other since we were like 4 or 5 years old. Is the sort? I know it's with me and you. It's more likely that I'll remember something, and you'll be like, I can't remember that.
Yeah,
and I'm like, yeah, man, do you remember?
Mostly.
And you're like, man, I wish I could remember that. I have memories of like saying that to you.
Yeah,
and you're not remember.
but not the actual
I can't think of
specific,
specifics right now.
yeah.
But I do have also memories of like Josh saying something to me and be like, yeah, do you remember when that happened, man? I'm like, no. And then the shoe's on the other foot.
yeah, totally.
And then
what makes you?
And he's like, in like year 5, like, do you remember like this happened? And it's like maybe even sometimes it's like a fairly crazy story. And I'm like, mate, I have no recollection of that. But it's for whatever reason, Josh stored that as like worthwhile remembrance. Like, do you know what I mean? Like worthwhile remembering. For whatever reason, my brain discarded it.
And some things are like so random. Like, why do you remember that specific thing? Like, one of the memories for me with Josh, like for when we were like really younger in school, is like going through this like little goth stage where we'd like paint our fingernails and
black,
that, and stuff like that. And then like being at this like weird little fete where I don't know whether it was in Wemden or it was
Probably Wemden fete,
or it was in Wemden or it was in
Wemden fete was it's like a
a
thing.
Or like one in town that was more like I don't. But
Was it on like a field?
Like a school? It was almost like it was a school or something.
It would have. I'm sure it would have been Wemden school fete.
Yeah, and like bouncy castle
me and Josh
there
would
and
go
stuff.
there.
And then like this memory of just like being and like Vicky Everard being there randomly as well for some reason, just being there.
But she lived in Durley, so it would have been walking distance as well.
Yeah, and then like you know what I mean, and then just like but it's a real just strong memory, and like what I can't hardly remember any other stuff. Yeah, but why? Just like this weird little like fate that I went to with Josh.
It's weird. I know exactly what you mean. Like you'd think that like as I said, to trigger the response in your brain that's like I'm going to log this. Like you'd think that there would be something pretty like radical to. But so I have certain memories of like sitting on a bus randomly, or
when nothing really happens.
Walking to like my nan's house, but it's like my grandma's house, but like nothing happened of note. But like, why? Why is your brain locked that?
Yeah.
And then your friend could say something to you that happened, and as I said, that's like pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I can't remember that.
Yeah. Just like the magnitude of it, and I love it as well when you smell something that you've say like not smelt in years, and it triggers like just a remembrance or like a memory from another feeling or like from like smelling or seeing or hearing.
They say that smell is the most is the sense that brings upon memory the most, isn't it? I don't know a way to say it.
I can
better
believe
than
that definitely.
Like if you say went through if you smelt if you hadn't smelt a smell in 15 years, but it was something that the first girl you loved wore all the time as perfume. If then you suddenly smelt it, you would get this weird, almost like, you know, when you almost get like knocked for six a minute, and you're like, you almost felt like it was like 2005 for a second. And it's like, whoa.
Yeah, and like with music sometimes as well. If you haven't heard like music for like years, and then all of a sudden this track comes on, you're like,
strongest one.
It brings you back to an exact memory when you can remember listening to the track.
That was my favourite song for 6 months, 2003.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
haven't heard it in years. Like, yeah.
And then the other one, like when you taste something, that you can, if you said, oh, what does basil taste like? You couldn't think about it in your head, but then like when you have it, it's just like instant recognition of just this like flavor that you haven't had for like so long, but you like, I know that. You know,
I know that.
But before I tasted it, if someone said, "Oh, do you know what basil tastes like?" I couldn't think of what it tasted like. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Do you know what's really interesting? I'm trying to put myself on the spot, and I can't think exactly what it tastes like, but I can think of the type of taste. Do you know what I mean? It's
like basil.
It's a more extreme.
Like a
it's a more extreme herb.
Yeah,
isn't it? It's not very subtle. It's got a very strong taste, and that's why you want to make sure you use it in the right sort of dish.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll put it on like margaritas occasionally. It's not like not all the time, because I guess it's like it's the sort of thing I can imagine it wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea. It's very strong herb, isn't it? But I can't create the taste.
But then when you would, it'd be instant recognition. And that's what I find so weird.
It's a very specific flavour. A bit like sort of almost like Marmite in terms of not in terms of, you know,
flavour.
It's class of flavour. But in terms of like, I can imagine it's very like love or hate it. I can imagine there's lots of people that wouldn't like basil.
And like Meg said something to me, and I didn't think about it, but when she said, I was like, oh, like yeah, because normally a big thing with basil is basil and fresh mozzarella, like not cooked mozzarella, but like a slight like fresh mozzarella.
Well, yeah, again, put it also on margarita, so it could be cooked.
Yeah,
because the flavors go well.
Yeah, but that taste of fresh mozzarella with basil,
creamy,
and when I taste
dairy.
a bit of basil now, I can almost taste the mozzarella with it. Do you know what I mean?
Like, intrinsically linked.
It makes me think of another taste that's like you associate with that thing together. You know,
it's interesting as well, isn't it? Because you know we were saying you know about these different like, you know, recall, like whether like flavor or like music or smell can cause you to recall. I think I've never really thought about it before, but I think one of my favorite things to do is find new music and new music I like. But I also, equally important, the bands I go to back time and time again, bands like Metallica or A Perfect Circle that I've been fans of since I was like just started puberty. I think one of the reasons I like those bands, don't get me wrong, I do genuinely believe that on like a deep level, I genuinely really like the music. But I also think it's almost like a comfort blanket for me.
Yeah,
without
nostalgic.
Without realizing it, I think it's like, okay, this is familiar. I've had loads of good times in my life listening to this music. It's almost like become like a part of my life and heart and soul. And as a result, it invokes good feelings for me to listen to. Not just because I like it from a technical standpoint or from an emotional, visceral standpoint, but because of the deeper familial
connection you've got to the music.
But if somebody showed me, like, if I listened to like Creator or something like another old thrash band, I don't have that familiarity.
Yeah,
I'm not saying I wouldn't like it. I might think, oh man, I can't believe I haven't listened to this band before, because I haven't really ever checked them out really.
Yeah.
But, I don't have that connection. It's
I
almost
think
like an
that's
uncle.
why sometimes
it's like an old uncle.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you really like, you really get on with, but you don't necessarily see him every day. But whenever you see him, you're like, it invokes feelings of like good times in your childhood or something.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And like just new music as well, like how things a lot of the time can be growers because
showers.
Yeah, definitely grow. Well, yeah, literally like grower, not a shower, because the first time you like listen to it, you might think it's cool, but it's not that impactful. But then you listen to it a few more times, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I've integrated this sound now, and now I recognize it, and now I associate with it, and now I really like it.
Yeah, it's interesting how music's like that. Sometimes you can listen to things and it blows you out of the water straight away, and then sometimes it takes you listen a couple of times to listen to something, and then you love it like insane.
Almost equally as like the one that blew it out of the water.
Or maybe even more.
Yeah, and it is like mad, isn't it?
Oh my god, the craziness of the universe. And on that note, we've come to the end of another Pandora's Box. Thanks for tuning with us, guys. We love you. We'll bring you another PB next week. Have a great week. We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.